Most of us probably think of language as just a way to share information, right? But what if I told you it's actually more like a Swiss Army knife, packed with all these different tools for different jobs? Well, that's exactly what the linguist Roman Jakobson figured out. And today, we're going to break down how this incredible multi-tool works in every single conversation you have.
Pretty wild, right? The idea that every single sentence, whether it's a simple hello or a complex business pitch, is secretly juggling multiple tasks? In this explainer, we're going to unpack that hidden complexity and really show you what's going on beneath the surface of your everyday conversations. Okay, so before we can jump into the different jobs language does, we first have to understand its basic ingredients. For any communication to even happen, a few key things absolutely have to be in place.
And this is where Roman Jakobson comes in. He identified 6 fundamental factors. These are like the non-negotiable building blocks for any active communication. If you're missing even one of these, what you're saying is basically just noise.
All right, here they are. First, you need an addresser. That's the sender. Then you need an addressee, the person on the receiving end. They need a context, the situation they're talking about. And of course, there's the message itself. All of this has to travel through some kind of contact or channel, like sound waves or a text message. And crucially, it only works if they both share a common code, like speaking the same language. You need all 6 every time.
So here's where it gets really cool. Jakobson didn't just list the ingredients. He connected each one to an actual job that language performs. He figured out that each of those 6 factors we just talked about corresponds to a specific function of language. And this right here shows that brilliant connection. Each factor lines up perfectly with a function. The addresser, the sender, links to the emotive function. The addressee, the receiver, links to the conative function, and so on down the list. So let's break down what each of these actually does, starting with the one we all think of first.
First up, we've got the referential function. This is all about the facts. It's language in its most basic information-sharing mode. It just points to the world and describes it. Nice and objective. Think news reports, scientific papers. This is the foundation of clear communication.
This is a perfect example. The sentence is purely referential. It's a hard fact about the business context. There's no emotion, no hidden agenda, no command. It's just pure data. Next up is the emotive function. So now the focus shifts away from the outside world and onto the inner world of the sender, the addresser. This is language that lets out feelings, opinions, and attitudes. It's the I feel part of communication, and it helps us understand the person behind the words.
You can just feel the excitement here, can't you? The statement isn't really about the car's specs. It's about the speaker's personal, emotional reaction to the car. That exclamation point basically screams, this is the emotive function at work.
Okay, so now we're turning our attention to the receiver, the addressee. The conative function is all about language that's designed to get a reaction. It's about influencing the listener, making them do something or think something. This is the language of commands, questions, and persuasion. It's how we turn our words into action.
This is a classic conative statement. Its entire purpose is to make something happen, to get the addressee to perform an action, which is helping John. The success of this sentence is literally measured by whether or not that person gets up and helps.
This next one is absolutely fascinating. The phatic function has almost nothing to do with information. It's all about the channel, the contact itself. You can think of it as the social glue of conversation. It's just checking to make sure the connection is still there.
When someone says this, they're not really asking for information, are they? It's a system check. They're just asking, is our line of communication open? Even small talk like, how's it going? Or saying, see you later, serves the same phatic job. It keeps that social connection alive.
Now, the poetic function is where we focus on the message for its own sake. It's not just about what you say, but how you say it. This is where language gets a little artistic, paying attention to rhythm, wordplay, and style to make the message itself more memorable or beautiful. And hey, this isn't just for poetry. Slogans, proverbs, catchy little phrases, they all lean heavily on the poetic function. This quote isn't just a fact. It's short, it's rhythmic, it's memorable. The form itself helps the message stick in your brain. All right, our last function is a little meta. It's the metalingual function, and it's all about the code itself. This happens anytime we use language to talk about, language. Defining a word, checking on grammar, or just making sure we all agree on what a term means. This is the function that keeps us all on the same page. This is a perfect example of the metalingual function in action.
The speaker is literally using words to explain the code. They're defining the German term Schadenfreude to make sure the listener knows exactly what they're talking about. Without this, misunderstandings would be everywhere.
Okay, so we've walked through all 6 functions, but here's the real kicker. They almost never appear alone. In the real world, most of what we say is a complex cocktail, with multiple functions all layered on top of each other in a single sentence. Let's see how that works.
So check this out. Imagine a manager says, "We're behind schedule." That part is purely referential. It's just a fact. Then they add, "Let's meet at 3 p.m." Boom, now we have the conative function, calling for an action. But what if they say it all with a really frustrated tone? Well, that's the emotive function peeking through. If someone asks for clarification and the manager says, "By behind schedule, I mean we've missed our first deadline," that's metalingual. And to really drive it home, they might add, "Remember, as we say, time is money," using the poetic function to make the point stick. See how they all stack up in just one little exchange?
So you might be wondering, okay, cool, but why does this all matter? Well, it matters because understanding Jakobson's model gives us a completely new way to look at communication. It shows us that language is never, ever just one thing.
So, here's the big takeaway. Language is constantly doing a bunch of jobs at once. Yes, it's sharing facts, but at the same exact time, it's managing relationships, expressing feelings, and just making sure the lines of communication stay open. Every single email you write, every ad you see, every little chat you have is this complex dance of these 6 functions. And that just about wraps it up. But I'm going to leave you with one last little puzzle right here on the slide. Which of the functions we just talked about is this very question using to try and get a response from you? Something to think about.